Something has been sitting quietly in the background of this film for 35 years, and almost nobody talks about it directly. You walk into a memory shop, you tell them you want to be a secret agent on Mars, and you sit down in the chair. Everything that follows, the chases, the double identities, the woman from your dreams, the alien reactor, the sky turning blue at the end, every single one of those things was something you asked for, at the desk, before any of it started. That is the real mystery inside Total Recall. Not whether the events were real, and not whether quiet is dreaming. The question the film keeps asking, without ever saying it out loud, is why he wanted it so badly in the first place. This is Total Recall from 1990, directed by Paul Verhoeven and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger in what may be the most philosophically loaded action film of his career, which is saying quite a lot when you consider that his other major franchise is about a killing machine from the future. Total Recall is bigger than it appears. What it hides in plain sight is not a plot twist. It is a feeling. The film opens on a dream. Quiet stands on Mars with a dark-haired woman, and then he falls, and he wakes up beside Sharon Stone, who is blonde and perfect and devoted to him. The first thing he does after opening his eyes is look out the window at the skyline. Unsatisfied. Most people carry Total Recall in their memory as an action film with some interesting ideas tucked inside it. Watch that opening again and you notice something else. Douglas Quaid has everything. A beautiful apartment, steady work, a wife who by any honest measure is extraordinary, and he is miserable in a way he cannot name. Not dramatically miserable, not visibly falling apart, just quietly and persistently certain that his life does not fit him. That feeling runs the whole film. Not the conspiracy, not the memory implants, that itch. When a Rekall advertisement appears on his screen, a company that sells artificial memories of vacations you never actually took, he does not find it unsettling, which would be the rational response. He finds it exciting. His friend warns him to stay away. His wife asks him to drop it. He goes anyway, and he does not ask for a beach holiday or a relaxing week somewhere warm. He specifically requests the secret agent package on Mars, because he wants to be someone who matters, someone the world organizes itself around. That desire was there long before he walked through Rekall's door. The memory shop did not create it, it just gave it somewhere to go. Philip K. Dick published the original story in 1966, calling it We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, and it centers on a man named Douglas Quail, who also leads an ordinary life and also cannot stop dreaming about Mars. Dick was not writing an adventure story. He was writing about the quiet, crushing weight of being an average person in a world that insists greatness is available if you just want it enough. The question Dick circled back to across his entire career, through Blade Runner and Minority Report and dozens of shorter pieces, was this: what is the self, exactly, if it can be edited? If your memories belong to someone else's design, if your desires were planted by forces you cannot locate, if the person you believe yourself to be is something someone built, then who is the one doing the wanting? Verhoeven took that question and embedded it inside the most commercially powerful delivery system available to him, an Arnold Schwarzenegger action film. Nobody bought a ticket looking for philosophy, they came for explosions, and they got both. Dick's protagonists almost always arrive at the same crossroads that Quiet reaches in this film. The husband who discovers his wife is not what she seemed. The civil servant whose memories of a war he never fought are somehow more real than anything from his actual childhood. The worker who begins to notice that the city around him behaves like a stage set, with extras who do not know their cues. In nearly every case they make the same choice. They reach for the more interesting version of themselves, even when it cost them the life they had, choosing the identity they wanted over the one they inherited. That is not a science fiction idea. It is the oldest idea there is, and science fiction just builds a machine that makes the choice visible. What Verhoeven said on the DVD commentary, when someone pressed him directly on whether the film's events were real or a dream, was straightforward. He called it a dream, then added that audiences find this disturbing because they want the adventure. They want Quiet to be a real hero who actually saved a real Mars. That discomfort, that small resistance when someone suggests it might all be inside his head, is the film landing exactly where it aimed. Return to the Rekall consultation scene. Bob McLean the salesman walks Quiet through the fantasy package step by step. A secret identity, a rebel woman, a conspiracy to unravel, the chance to save an entire planet. He lists every parameter, he makes the pitch. The film then delivers all of it, point by point in order, matching the specifications exactly. Either this is a coincidence of remarkable scale, or the film is showing you, without commentary and without underlining it, that everything you are watching was assembled from a catalogue of desires that Quiet selected himself. The rebel woman he kept dreaming about before he ever sat in the chair. The alien artifact. The chance to stand on the right side of something that matters. The moment when the sky changes color because of something he did. Verhoeven and the screenwriters deliberately rewrote the script to hold both interpretations simultaneously, and this was not a compromise. It was the entire design. There is evidence supporting both readings, placed carefully on both sides. Because the question the film is actually asking is not which version happened, the question is whether it matters. If Quiet experienced all of it, if it felt real from the inside, if he made choices and those choices had consequences and he became someone different through them, then what does it mean to call it only a dream? And if it was real, what does it mean that it tracked his fantasy with that kind of precision? Dick posed this question repeatedly across his career. Is a memory that feels genuine any less valid than one that actually occurred? The film never answers. It asks the question again at the very end, when Melina says it feels like a dream and Quiet tells her to kiss him quickly before he wakes up. Midway through the film there is a scene that most viewers file away as a suspenseful set piece, but that is actually the moment the film comes closest to showing its hand. A doctor turns up in Quiet's hotel room on Mars, calm and reasonable and not threatening him at all. He tells Quiet that he is still sitting in the chair back on Earth, that none of what he is experiencing is real, and that there is a pill, a blue one, and if Quiet swallows it the session ends and he goes home to his life. The doctor calls it a schizoid embolism, a condition where the patient goes too deep into the implanted fantasy and the mind begins to fracture. He is offering Quiet an exit. He speaks with patience and genuine concern, and for a moment Quiet actually considers it. This scene was the reason Verhoeven agreed to direct the film. He read it in the script before anything else and said yes immediately, because it is the moment where the film stops pretending to be only about action and asks the audience to sit with a genuinely uncomfortable possibility that everything they have enjoyed for the past hour was a man in a chair getting exactly what he paid for. Quiet kills the doctor. He rejects the exit and chooses to stay inside the adventure, choosing to believe that what he is experiencing is real. Whether he was right does not change what that choice reveals. The quiet, dissatisfied man from the apartment, the one with the perfect life that felt completely wrong, that person was already gone. The adventure had already turned him into someone else. The film is consistent on one point, regardless of which interpretation you hold. Memory and identity are the same thing. Strip out Quiet's memories and replace them with new ones, and you have not edited his vacation preferences. You have replaced him with a different person. The body continues. The person inside it does not. This is why the scene with the recorded message from Hauser lands so strangely. The screen comes on in the hotel room, and Quiet meets himself, a prior version, confident and smirking, giving instructions from before. The message explains that Hauser arranged all of this deliberately, that Quiet is a tool someone built and pointed in a direction and released, designed to lead Cohagen's people to the rebel leader Kuato. Quiet watches the screen for a moment, then decides he is not that person. He sides with the rebels. He protects Quiet. He acts against the design he was handed. In a film that keeps questioning what is real, this is the closest thing to a definitive statement. Whoever assembled him, and whatever purpose they had in mind, he is choosing right now, in this moment, who to be. That choice is real. The Mars around him may be a dream. The choice is not. Part of what makes Total Recall survive when so many films from the same period have not comes down to how Verhoeven works as a director and what he was actually building underneath the surface of the film. Born in the Netherlands, Verhoeven spent years making films in Europe before Hollywood recruited him, and he arrived with a satirist's eye and a European tolerance for ideas inside entertainment that the American studio system of the period had largely trained out of its filmmakers. When RoboCop came out in 1987, the studio believed they were receiving a polished sci-fi action film about a cyborg cop. What they actually got was a film that spent its running time methodically taking apart corporate America, media culture, and the mythology of the individual hero, all while delivering exactly the action sequences that had been requested. Total Recall operates the same way. On the surface, it gives the audience everything they arrived hoping for. Schwarzenegger is enormous, and apparently indestructible. Gun battles and car chases land with satisfying weight. Ronnie Cox plays the villain Cohagen, a man who controls the air supply of an entire planet and frames it as a straightforward business arrangement. And Michael Ironside plays his enforcer Richter with a hatred for Quiet that reads as personal rather than professional, which makes him considerably more unnerving than anything mechanical. Underneath all of it, Verhoeven is making a film about class, about the people in the tunnels beneath the Mars colony who cannot afford to breathe without paying someone, about the way Cohagen's entire power structure rests on controlling something that should belong to everybody. The mutants in Venusville are not presented purely as spectacle, though they function as that too. They are the people the colony system disposed of, the ones who spent too long on the surface because moving somewhere safer was not an option, and their physical deformities carry the colonial economy's history in them. None of this is announced. No character delivers a speech explaining the politics. The information lives in the architecture of Mars, in who occupies which neighborhoods, in what people pay, and what they breathe and what they are allowed to want for themselves. Quiet shows up. This ordinary man from Earth with his borrowed memories and his confused sense of who he is, and he becomes the catalyst for releasing free air to everyone on the planet. Not purely out of nobility, though some of that is present, but because saving the planet was in the package he selected at the Rekall desk. Verhoeven has described his approach as hiding ideas inside entertainment on the grounds that entertained people lower their resistance. He was not making an argument. He was making a ride. The ride just happened to have a destination. One man controlling the air of an entire colony as a profit mechanism, charging the population to breathe. In 1990 that read as speculation. By 2025 it has the texture of a metaphor that stopped being metaphorical. Back in 1990, the film posed speculative questions about a technology that did not exist yet. Memory implants, purchased identities, synthetic holidays for people who could not afford the real thing. By 2025 you can filter your face into a different face before anyone else sees it. You can spend an evening in a virtual space with strangers who present themselves as something entirely unlike what they are. You can build a version of your own past on social media that carries the same emotional texture as genuine memory while bearing little relationship to what actually occurred. Companies are not simply selling products anymore. They are selling a self, a slightly elevated, slightly more heroic version of who you already are, and the transaction is seamless because the desire was already there. The question Rekall posed in 1990 is no longer hypothetical. We are already sitting in the consultation room, already choosing between packages, secret agent or beach holiday, hero or tourist. The technology changed. The desire behind it is identical. Cohagen's power over Mars does not rest on violence alone. It rests on the air. You breathe what he permits. You live as far as he allows. The people moving through the tunnels with their black market oxygen are not criminals. They are people who found out that the free air was a product and that someone had set a price they could not meet. That image has not lost its sharpness. If anything, it has gained some. The film closes on the alien reactor releasing oxygen into the Martian atmosphere, and the sky shifts from red to blue in real time. The moment is spectacular and earned, and also, for anyone who has been paying attention, exactly what the salesman at Rekall described before any of it began. The camera pulls back, the score rises. Quiet and Melina stand watching the sky change color, and he says it feels like a dream, and she tells him not to wake up, and then the screen goes white. Verhoeven has described the fade to white as a deliberate choice. Not black, which suggests sleep or death. White, which could mean waking. In the chair. On Earth. With a technician leaning over him confirming that the session went well and he can take his time coming around. Or it could mean a new world opening up. A man who spent his whole life wanting to matter. Finally mattering. A sky that spent its whole existence red, turning blue. The film declines to resolve it. That refusal turns out to be its most honest moment, because you cannot resolve it either. You watched the whole thing and you felt it, and you already know which version you want to be true. That preference, that pull toward the more interesting outcome, is exactly what Quiet felt long before he walked into Rekall. The longing, the insistence that the better version of events must be the real one. Think about what that means. He was not broken. He was not delusional. He was just a person who had been handed a life that did not match the size of what he felt inside. And the film never judges him for that. It understands it. It builds its entire architecture around it, because the people watching from their couches and cinema seats understand it too, even if they have never thought to put it into words. The film is not ultimately about memory. It is about hope, and about how closely hope resembles denial, and about how neither of those things diminishes what it feels like to hold on to it. If Total Recall has been sitting unwatched on your shelf for a few years, or if you have never sat down with it while holding this particular question, tonight is the right time. Watch the Rekall consultation scene with attention. Listen to everything Bob McLean describes. Then keep a mental list as the rest of the film unfolds. When the sky turns blue and the screen goes white, ask yourself which version you believe, and then ask yourself why that version is the one you reached for. After that, ask whether that preference tells you something beyond the film itself. What would you order if someone handed you the catalog? Leave it in the comments. Whether the answer is the same for everyone, or whether it turns out to say more about the person than the question, I find that genuinely interesting to think about. Total Recall, 1990. Still the most interesting question anyone ever thought to put inside an action movie.